The signal came at 0300 hours, when most of the command deck was quiet. Admiral Kang Taho was not sleeping. He never slept well anymore. 30 years of space had taken that from him. So he sat in his chair, watching the stars through the main window. When the alarm began to scream, "Sir, we have an emergency transmission," said Lieutenant Park Yuna. Her voice was calm, but her hands moved fast across the console. "It's coming from the Valari homeworld. Distress Code 7. Code 7 meant extinction level event. Kong stood up slowly. He had met the Valari once, 10 years ago, at a diplomatic dinner. They were small creatures, covered in soft white fur, with large eyes that seemed to hold all the sadness in the universe. They made beautiful music. They had never fought a war in their entire history. "Put it on screen," he ordered. The image that appeared made the entire bridge go silent. Cities were burning. Not just one or two, but all of them. The camera shook as it recorded ships flying overhead, dropping fire on everything below. Valari were running through the streets, carrying their children, screaming in their soft language. Soldiers in black armor walked through the crowds, shooting anyone who moved too slowly. A young Valari female looked directly into the camera. Her fur was covered in ash. Behind her, a building collapsed. She spoke quickly, desperately, in broken common galactic. "Please help us. They are killing everyone. The Dominion came 3 days ago. They said we had criminals hiding here. We did not. We gave them everything they asked for. They killed our leaders anyway. Now they are killing everyone. Please, anyone, help us." The transmission ended. Nobody on the bridge moved. Kong could hear his own heart beating in his ears. He had seen war before. He had grown up reading about the terrible things humans had done to each other on Earth. But this was something else. This was not war. This was murder on a scale that made his mind go numb. "Get me everything," he said quietly. "Every piece of data attached to this signal." Park Yuna worked for 20 minutes. When she was done, her face was pale. She would not look at the Admiral. "Sir," she said, "there are additional files. They were hidden inside the transmission. I think the Valari wanted us to find them. Show me." What appeared on screen was worse than the video. It was a list. A list of names. Species names. 17 of them, going back 100 years. Next to each name was a date and a single word: eliminated. The Karathi. Eliminated in 2157, the Mavani. Eliminated in 2189, the Vesic. Eliminated in 2201, and now the Valari. "In progress?" "The Galactic Assembly," Yuna said, her voice shaking now. They knew. There are records here. Reports. Votes. The Assembly knew about all of these, and they voted to do nothing. Every single time. Captain Lee Jinsu stepped forward. He was a big man, with a scar across his chin from a training accident years ago. He did not scare easily, but now his hands were shaking. 17 species, he said. They let the Dominion kill 17 entire species. And nobody said anything. Kong did not answer. He was looking at the screen at the list of names. Each name represented billions of lives. Cultures that had existed for thousands of years. Art, music, history, love, dreams, all of it gone. Burned away because the Dominion decided they were inconvenient, and the galaxy had done donked. Watched in silence. He thought about Earth. He thought about the history lessons he had learned as a child. The Holocaust. The Rwandan Genocide. The Chennai Massacre of 2089. Humans knew what this looked like. Humans had done this to each other. They had sworn again and again never to let it happen again. But here it was happening. Not on Earth, but in the stars. And humanity had joined a government that allowed it. What do we do? Jinsu asked. Kong closed his eyes. The correct answer was simple. They would report this to Earth Command. Earth Command would bring it to the United Earth Council. The Council would send a formal complaint to the Galactic Assembly. The Assembly would form a committee. The committee would discuss and debate and eventually do nothing. It's just like they had done 17 times before. That was protocol. That was how things worked in the galaxy. And while they followed protocol, the last Velari would die. He opened his eyes. "We report to Earth Command," he said. "We send everything we have. Every file, every video, every piece of evidence." "And then?" Yuna asked. Kong looked at her. She was young. She had joined the fleet because she believed humanity could make a difference in the galaxy. He saw that hope dying in her eyes right now, and it made something twist in his chest. "And then we wait for orders," he said. "That is all we can do." But even as he said the words, he knew they were not enough. Protocol was not enough. Decorum was not enough. The galaxy had built a system where genocide was acceptable as long as you filled out the correct forms and called it something polite like internal cleansing. Humanity had joined that system. They had smiled and bowed and learned all the correct phrases. They had wanted so badly to belong among the stars that they had closed their eyes to what those stars contained. "Captain?" Ijinsu walked to the window and looked out at the distant light of the Velari system. Somewhere out there, right now, children were being murdered while their parents screamed. And tomorrow, the assembly would hold a vote, and everyone would speak very politely, and nothing would change. "This is wrong," Jinsu said quietly. "All of it. Everything about this is wrong." Admiral Kong did not disagree. He turned back to the screen, where the list of dead species still glowed in the darkness of the bridge. 17 names. Soon to be 18. He did not know it yet, but that night would change everything. Not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. Because sometimes the only way to fix a broken system is to stop playing by its rules. And humanity was very good at breaking rules. The Galactic Assembly Hall was the largest building Ambassador SEO Hannah had ever seen. It floated in space, attached to nothing. A massive sphere of white metal and glass that could hold 10,000 beings from 200 different species. Light came from everywhere and nowhere. The air smelled like nothing at all, carefully filtered to offend no one. Hannah hated it. She stood at the speaker's platform. A small human woman in a simple black suit, facing a sea of alien faces. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no faces at all, just masses of tentacles or glowing energy fields. All of them were looking at her with the same expression. Boredom. "Evidence is clear," Hannah said, keeping her voice steady. "The Dominion of Keth has committed systematic genocide against the Velari people. As of this morning, an estimated 4 billion Velari have been killed. The remaining population is in hiding or fleeing as refugees." She pressed a button, and images appeared on the massive screens around the hall. The same images that had haunted her dreams for a week: burning cities, mass graves, children lying dead in the streets. "This is not the first time," she continued. "Our intelligence has confirmed 17 previous extinction events carried out by the Dominion over the past century. All of them were reported to this assembly. All of them were ignored." She paused, looking around the room. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. "Earth calls upon the Galactic Assembly to condemn these actions, impose sanctions on the Dominion, and authorize a peacekeeping force to protect the surviving Valar." She stepped back from the platform. For a moment, there was silence. Then the Dominion's representative stood up. High Arbiter Volith was tall, nearly 3 meters, with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had ruled the Dominion for 6,000 years. They had built an empire across a quarter of the galaxy. They were old and powerful and patient, and they looked at humanity the way a human might look at an ant. "The representative from Earth speaks with passion," Volith said. His voice was smooth, almost friendly. "This is understandable. Humans are a young species. They have only been part of our great assembly for 30 years. They do not yet understand how things work." He spread his 4 arms wide, as if explaining something to a child. "The Velari situation is an internal matter. Certain elements within their society were supporting separatist movements. The Dominion, as the guarantor of galactic peace, had a duty to respond. The methods may seem harsh to outside eyes, but they are necessary. Order must be maintained." He turned to look directly at Hannah. "Earth should learn decorum. Earth should learn its place. Young species that make noise often find themselves corrected." The threat was clear. Several species in the assembly nodded their heads. Others looked away, pretending they had not heard. Hannah felt her hands shaking, not from fear, from anger. "May I respond?" she asked. The assembly speaker, a floating sphere of blue light, pulsed once. "You may. High Arbiter Valeth calls this an internal matter," Hannah said. "He calls the murder of 4 billion innocent people necessary. He tells us that Earth should learn its place." She looked around the room again. This time, her eyes were hard. "Where is the representative from Karathi? I would like to ask their opinion." Silence. "They have no representative," she continued, "because they no longer exist. The Dominion killed them all 60 years ago. What about the Mavani, the Viasic, the Vorn? Where are they?" More silence. "They are gone. All of them. And this assembly did nothing. You held votes. You expressed concern. You formed committees. And while you talked, entire civilizations were erased from existence." Her voice rose. "Earth did not come to the stars to be part of this. We did not spend 1,000 years fighting our way out of our own darkness just to join a government that lets genocide happen as long as you call it something polite." High Arbiter Valeth laughed. It was a cold sound. "The human makes speeches," he said. "How touching. But speeches do not change reality. The Dominion has 10,000 warships. Earth has 60. Perhaps the human should consider mathematics before she considers morality." The assembly speaker pulsed again. "We will now vote on Earth's proposal." The vote took less than 5 minutes. 198 species voted against intervention. Only 2 voted in favor, Earth and the Valari, whose representative was a single survivor broadcasting from a refugee ship, crying as she cast her vote. The proposal failed after the session ended. Hannah walked through the empty corridors of the station. She had known the vote would fail. Everyone had known. But she had hoped foolishly that maybe this time would be different, that maybe the images of dead children would be enough to make. Someone cared. She was wrong. Valeth found her near the docking bay. He walked slowly, his forearms folded behind his back, like someone taking a pleasant stroll. "Do not feel bad, little human," he said. "You tried. That is admirable." "Foolish, but admirable." Hannah said nothing. "The Valari will be gone within a month," Valeth continued. "Then everything will return to normal, and in a few years nobody will even remember their name. That is how the galaxy works. That is how it has always worked." He leaned closer. His breath smelled like metal. "Learn from this ambassador. Go back to your little planet. Tell your leaders to be quiet and obedient. Enjoy the peace that the Dominion provides, and never, ever challenge us again." He walked away. Hannah stood alone in the corridor for a long time. Then she walked to her ship and flew back to Earth. She did not feel defeated. She felt something else, something that had been building inside her since she first saw the footage from VALR. It took her 12 hours to reach Earth. She went directly to the United Earth Council building in Geneva. Secretary General Beek Sumin was waiting for her. "How was the vote?" Beek asked. 198 to 2, Hannah replied. "They laughed at us. Valeth told us to learn decorum, to know our place." Beek was silent for a moment. She was an old woman, with gray hair and deep lines on her face. She had survived floods and wars and plagues. She had seen humanity at its worst and its best. "Decorum," she repeated quietly. Then she stood up. "Call an emergency session. All nations. All channels open to the galaxy." Hannah blinked. "What are you going to do?" Beek walked to the window and looked out at the night sky. "Somewhere up there, the Valari were dying. I'm going to show them," she said, "what humanity does when decorum fails." Every screen in the galaxy showed the same image. The United Earth Council chamber, filled with representatives from every nation on the planet. And at the center, standing alone at a simple podium, Secretary General Beek Sumin. She was not an impressive figure. Short, old, dressed in plain gray clothes. Her voice was not loud. Her face was not beautiful. But when she began to speak, something in her words made the entire galaxy stop and listen. "My name is Beek Sumin," she said. "I am the Secretary General of the United Earth Council. I am speaking today to every species in the Galactic Assembly, and to the Dominion of Keth. Behind her, a screen flickered to life. Images began to appear. The faces of the Valari, then the Karathi, then the Mavani, the Verna, and all the others. 17 species. Billions of faces. All of them dead. These are the species that your great civilization has erased, Beak continued. 17 peoples. Cultures that existed for thousands of years. Art, music, love, dreams. All of it gone. Burned away because the Dominion decided they were inconvenient and the Assembly decided their lives were not worth saving. She paused. Her hands were steady on the podium. For 30 years, humanity has been part of the Galactic Assembly. We came to the stars with hope. We believed that among the thousands of species in this galaxy, we would find wisdom. We would find justice. We would find friends. Her voice hardened. We were wrong. The images behind her changed. Now they showed the Assembly vote. 198 to 2. Yesterday, I sent my ambassador to beg for the lives of the Valari. She showed evidence of genocide. She showed videos of children being murdered in the streets. She asked, very politely, for help. Beak shook her head slowly. The Assembly laughed at her. The Dominion told her to learn decorum, to know her place, to be quiet and obedient while an entire civilization was erased from existence. She looked directly into the camera. Her eyes were hard as stone. I have a message for the Dominion of Keth and for every species that voted against intervention yesterday. Listen carefully, because I will only say this once. The chamber went completely silent. Humanity knows what genocide looks like. We have done it to ourselves. We have burned our own cities. We have killed our own children. We have committed every horror that the Dominion has committed, and worse. Our history is written in blood. Her voice dropped lower. But we learned, slowly, painfully. Generation after generation, we learned that some things are evil, not complicated, not necessary. Evil. We built monuments to our victims. We taught our children to remember. We swore over and over again never to let it happen again. She stepped away from the podium and walked closer to the camera. And now we come to the stars, and we find that the galaxy has learned nothing. You have built an empire on bones. You have created a system where genocide is acceptable as long as you fill out the correct forms. You have watched 17 civilizations burn and called it maintaining order. Her voice rose. No more. The word echoed through the chamber. Today, the United Earth Council withdraws from the Galactic Assembly. We reject its authority. We reject its laws. We reject any system that calls mass murder an internal matter. Behind her, the Earth flag appeared on the screen, blue and green with a simple white circle at the center. From this moment forward, Earth declares itself a sanctuary for all species fleeing Dominion persecution. Any refugee who reaches our space will be protected. Any ship that attempts genocide in our presence will be destroyed. She turned to face the camera directly. Who told my ambassador to learn decorum? I have a response for you. She paused. Enough. No more decorum. The words hung in the air like thunder. You believe that power gives you the right to murder. You believe that because you have 10,000 ships, you can do whatever you want. You believe that humanity is too small, too young, too weak to stop you. A thin smile crossed her face. You are wrong. Humanity did not survive ice ages and plagues and world wars by being polite. We survived by being stubborn, by refusing to die, by standing up again and again, no matter how many times we were knocked down. You told us to know our place. Very well. We know it now. She pointed at the camera. Our place is standing between you and anyone you would destroy. Our place is saying no when the rest of the galaxy is too afraid to speak. Our place is here, in front of your guns, telling you that this ends now. You want a war? We will give you a war. Not for territory. Not for power. For something you have forgotten exists. The simple idea that some lives are worth protecting, even if it costs us everything. She stepped back to the podium. To the Valari, And to the survivors of every species the Dominion has tried to erase, you are not alone anymore. Come to us. We will protect you. To the galaxy, choose your side. Stand with the Dominion and their 1,000 years of murder, or stand with humanity and fight for something better. And to the Dominion of Keth, we are coming, not to conquer you, not to destroy you, but to stop you. And we will not stop. We will never stop until the killing ends. She raised her head high. This is humanity's answer to your decorum. Remember it. Transmission ended. Across the galaxy, there was silence. On 1,000 worlds, beings stared at their screens in shock. No one had ever spoken to the Dominion like that. No one had ever dared. Then slowly, the responses began to come. The Valari refugees broadcast the speech to everyone they could reach. The hidden survivors of the Korathi emerged from their hiding places and played it on repeat. Species that had lived in fear for centuries began to whisper to each other by morning. 43 species had requested Earth's protection. The war had begun. Not with a gunshot, but with 3 words. Enough. No more decorum. 6 months passed. The galaxy held its breath. Admiral Kang Tae-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the main window. Behind him, 60 ships of the United Earth Defense Fleet waited in formation. Ahead of him, the Valari system glowed soft blue in the darkness. Somewhere on those planets, the last of their kind. And the Dominion was coming to finish what they had started. Admiral Lieutenant Park Yuna said, her voice tight, "Long-range sensors are detecting a fleet approaching from the outer rim. 300 ships. 300 against 60. Everyone on the bridge knew the math. Everyone knew what it meant. Kong nodded slowly. Send word to all ships. Battle stations. The fleet moved into position. They had trained for this moment. They had known it was coming. But knowing something and facing it were 2 different things. Captain Lee Jinsu appeared on the communication screen. His face was calm, but his eyes were hard. "Admiral," he said, "it has been an honor." "The honor is mine, Captain," Kong replied. "Remember what we are fighting for." The communication ended. 20 minutes later, the Dominion fleet appeared. 300 warships, each one larger than anything Earth had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, like a machine designed for one purpose: destruction. High Arbiter Volus's face appeared on every screen. "Admiral Kang," he said, smiling. 60 ships against 300. This is why young species should learn mathematics before they learn morality. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick. Kong looked at the alien's face. He thought about the list of dead species. He thought about the Valari children hiding in caves below. He thought about everything humanity had survived. "We have a saying on Earth," Kong replied. "It is not the size of the dog in the fight. It is the size of the fight in the dog." Valeth laughed. "Amusing. Your species will make an interesting footnote in history." The transmission ended, and the battle began. The Dominion ships charged forward, confident and proud. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. They had never lost a major battle. They expected the humans to break and run. They were wrong. The human ships scattered in all directions. It's not in retreat, but in attack. They moved faster than the Dominion had expected, weaving between the larger ships. Getting too close for the big guns to target them, Lieutenant Odami led a squadron of 12 fighters straight at the Dominion flagship. The massive ship tried to turn its weapons toward her, but she was too fast, too small. She flew into the gap between the ship's armor plates, heading directly for the engine array. "All fighters," she said into her radio. "It has been good flying with you." Then she activated the overload. 12 human fighters detonated their reactors at the same moment. Deep inside the flagship's engines, the explosion tore through the massive ship like fire through paper. It broke in half, spilling burning debris across the battlefield. The Dominion fleet hesitated. They had just lost their command ship to a handful of tiny fighters. Captain Lee Jinsu saw his opportunity. His ship, the Yu's Soul, was badly damaged. Half his crew was dead. His engines were failing. He could retreat. He could try to survive. Instead, he turned toward the largest group of enemy ships and pushed his engines to maximum. "All hands abandon ship," he ordered. "Get to the escape pods." His crew hesitated. "That is an order." He shouted. They obeyed. Within minutes, he was alone on the bridge. The enemy ships were firing at him, but he did not slow down. He aimed his broken ship directly at the center of their formation. For everyone. The used Soul hit 3 Dominion warships at full speed. The explosion destroyed all 4 vessels and damaged a dozen more. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Engineer No Gixok overloaded his ship's reactor, creating an artificial starburst that consumed an entire enemy squadron. Commander Yoon Hae-jin crashed her crippled destroyer into the enemy's ammunition ship, setting off a chain reaction that destroyed 20 vessels. The humans fought like nothing the Dominion had ever seen. They did not care about glory. They did not care about survival. They cared only about winning, about protecting the people they had sworn to defend. They used tactics from every war in human history. Ambushes from Sun Tzu, flanking maneuvers from Hannibal, guerrilla strikes from the resistance fighters of the 21st century. They turned the Dominion's own strength against them, using their size and pride as weapons. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, space around the Valari system was filled with wreckage. 34 human ships had been destroyed. Over 4,000 human soldiers had died. But 212 Dominion warships were gone. The remaining 88 were fleeing toward the outer rim, their formation broken, their confidence shattered. Admiral Kang stood on his damaged bridge, blood running down his face from a cut on his forehead. Around him, his surviving crew was crying, laughing, holding each other. "Open a channel," he said. "All frequencies." When the channel was open, he spoke to the galaxy. "This is Admiral Kang Tae-ho of the United Earth Defense Fleet. Today, the Dominion sent 300 ships to finish their genocide of the Valari people. They expected an easy victory." He paused. They were wrong. 88 of their ships are retreating. 212 are destroyed. The Valari are safe. We did not come here to conquer. We did not come here for glory or territory. We came because someone had to stand up. Someone had to say no. He looked out at the stars, at the wreckage, at the distant light of the Valari sun. To the Dominion, this is what happens when you threaten innocent lives. This is what happens when you push too far. We are not your subjects. We are not your slaves. We are human beings, and we will not let you murder anyone else. To the rest of the galaxy, choose. Stand with killers, or stand with us. There is no middle ground anymore." He ended the transmission. On the planets below, the Valari survivors came out of hiding. They looked up at the sky, at the human ships still burning in orbit. And they wept. For the first time in months, they wept with hope. 1 year had passed since the Battle of Vilarar. Ambassador Seo Hanna walked through the streets of New Hope City, the capital of New Valari. The planet had been a dead rock when Earth found it, too far from any star to support life naturally. Now it was covered in domes filled with artificial sunlight, green parks, and buildings made of white stone. 3 million Valari lived here now. The last of their kind, saved from extinction by 60 human ships and 4,000 human lives. Hannah stopped at the central square, where a memorial stood. It was a simple thing. A wall of black stone with names carved into it. Human names. Lee Jinsu. Odami, No Gikyok. 4,000 names in total, arranged in neat rows that stretched higher than she could see. A small figure walked up beside her. Kira was a young Valari female, barely old enough to be called an adult. Her white fur was clean now, not covered in ash like the day Hannah had first met her. Her large eyes, which had once held only terror, now showed something softer. "You come here every time you visit," Kira said. She spoke Korean now, taught to her by the human soldiers who had protected her refugee ship during the war. "Yes," Hannah replied. "I knew some of them," Kira nodded. She reached out and touched one of the names. Odami. The pilot who had destroyed the Dominion flagship. She saved my ship, Kira said quietly. Her fighters held off the enemy long enough for us to reach the human fleet. I never got to thank her, she knew, Hannah said. They all knew what they were fighting for. They stood in silence for a long moment. Above them, the artificial sun cast warm light through the dome. In the distance, Valari children were playing in a park, their soft laughter echoing through the square. I have news, Hannah said finally. The coalition voted this morning. Full membership for the Valari with a permanent seat on the council. Kira closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet with tears.
Hey.
We have a council seat, she whispered. My people have a voice again. You always had a voice, Hannah said. Now people will listen. The coalition of free species had formed 6 months after the battle. 52 species at first, all of them small, all of them tired of living in fear. They had come to Earth, one by one, asking for protection, asking for hope. Earth had given them more than protection. It had given them a seat at the table, a real table, where every species had an equal vote, where no one was laughed at for being young or small or weak. The Dominion still existed. They had not collapsed, though they had fractured badly. 18 of their member worlds had defected to the coalition. Their economy was struggling. Their military was rebuilding. But they were still dangerous. They would always be dangerous, and the old Galactic Assembly was gone. It had dissolved itself 3 months after the battle when too many of its members had left to join the coalition. The Great Hall on Axis Prime was empty now, a monument to 1,000 years of silence. Can I ask you something? Kira said. Of course. The young Valari looked up at the human woman. Her eyes were serious. Why did you help us? Hannah did not answer immediately. She looked at the memorial, at the names of the dead, at the city that human hands had helped build. Before I came to space, she said slowly, I studied history. Human history. I learned about all the terrible things we did to each other. Wars, genocides, slavery. We were monsters, Kira. For thousands of years, we were monsters. Kira listened quietly. But we changed. Not all at once. Not easily. We made mistakes, over and over again. But each time, enough of us remembered what we had done, and we tried to do better. She turned to face the Valari. When we came to the stars, we hoped to find something better than ourselves. We found the opposite. We found a galaxy that had learned nothing from its own history. A galaxy that let genocide happen because it was easier than fighting. Her voice hardened. And I thought, we know what this looks like. We have done this. We have been the monsters, and we have been the victims. If anyone in this galaxy should recognize evil when it stands in front of them, it is humanity. She looked up at the artificial sun. We helped you, because staying silent would have meant becoming the monsters again. And we refused. Whatever the cost, we refused. Kira reached out and took Hannah's hand. Her fur was soft, warm. The Dominion called you young and foolish, she said. They said you did not understand how the galaxy works. Hannah smiled sadly.
They were right.
We did not understand. We saw a galaxy built on fear and death, and we could not accept it. We could not be polite about murder. We could not be decorum while children burned. So you changed it. We are trying. It will take a long time. Maybe generations. But yes, we are trying. They walked together through the city, past shops and schools and homes, past Valari families learning to live again, past human soldiers teaching Valari children to play soccer, past old enemies becoming new friends. At the edge of the dome, they stopped and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Dominion was planning its next move. Somewhere, the remnants of 17 dead species were watching, hoping that this time would be different. And somewhere, on a small blue planet that had once nearly destroyed itself, 8 billion humans were looking up at the same stars.
Oh.
Do you think it will last? Kira asked. The peace, the coalition, do you think it will survive? Hannah thought about the question for a long time. I do not know, she admitted. The universe is big, and there will always be those who choose cruelty over kindness. But I know this. As long as there are people willing to stand up and say enough, there is hope. She looked at the young Valari beside her. the last of her kind. A survivor. Humanity learned something important on Earth, Hannah said. We learned that evil wins when good people do nothing. So we decided a long time ago to never do nothing again. Kira smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Enough, she said softly. No more decorum. Hannah nodded. No more decorum. Never again. Above them, the stars continued to shine. And for the first time in a very long time, they seemed a little less cold.